Ancient city streets point directly at stars for a reason. This was the work of master builders who used the sky as their blueprint. You are about to discover how entire civilizations were oriented to the cosmos. By the end, you will look at the night sky and see the original plan for human civilization itself. How did cultures separated by oceans achieve the same stunning precision? And what forgotten knowledge allowed them to mirror the heavens on Earth? What part of our own world might still be guided by these ancient celestial rules? A solitary figure stands on a high platform as night deepens, their eyes fixed on the shimmering patterns above. With nothing more than simple markers and a profound patience, they begin to map the slow dance of the heavens. This was the birth of a science we now call Archaeoastronomy, a field dedicated to unraveling how ancient peoples saw the sky not just as light, but as a living library. Pioneers in this area, like Dr. Anthony Aveni, describe it as learning to read the sky as a cultural text. For these early astronomers, the cosmos was a practical tool. It was their calendar marking the perfect time to plant and to harvest. It was their compass providing unchanging directions in a vast world, and for many, it was a sacred bridge to the divine. The principles they followed were based on celestial events anyone can still observe today. The solstices, when the sun reaches its highest or lowest point in the sky, and the equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length, were critical anchors. Entire cities were often laid out to interact with these moments. A temple doorway might be positioned so that only on the longest day of the year does the dawn light pierce directly through to the inner chamber, illuminating a sacred statue. Or a long avenue could be aligned to frame the setting sun on the winter solstice. This was not random. It was a deliberate, breathtaking integration of architecture and astronomy. This foundational knowledge of cycles and alignments was the essential first step, the mastering of a celestial language that would later be used to write grand designs across the Earth itself. That central altar, bathed in a single shaft of light for just one day each year, was the culmination of generations of watching. The sun was the most dependable of celestial partners, its path a grand, repeating cycle in the sky. Its journey between the solstices, the longest and shortest days, and the equinoxes, the moments of perfect balance, gave ancient societies their rhythm. This solar clock dictated when to sow seeds and when to harvest, when the rains would come and when the river would flood. It was the heartbeat of their world. So it is no surprise that they built their most important structures to honor this cycle. In Egypt, the great temple of Karnak was designed so that the rising sun on the winter solstice would travel down its main axis, flooding the inner sanctuary with light. For the Maya, the pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza was a monumental solar marker. On the spring equinox, the play of light and shadow creates the illusion of a serpent slithering down the staircase, a symbol of the feathered serpent god descending to Earth. This was far more than a clever trick of the light. It was a physical manifestation of their beliefs, a way to weave the power of their gods directly into the stone. The alignment was a dialogue between the heavens and the earth, a promise of renewal and order. To achieve such precision required more than just a single observation. It demanded the patient work of centuries, of priests and stargazers meticulously tracking the sun's shifting horizon points, passing that sacred knowledge down through the generations. This deep understanding of the sun's path was the very first and most crucial line drawn in the sand, the foundation upon which entire cities would eventually be laid out. But the sun was not the only guide in the sky. The moon offered a different, more mysterious kind of timekeeping. Its silvery light and ever-changing face, from a slender crescent to a brilliant full circle, presented a puzzle of greater complexity. While the sun follows a predictable annual path, the moon's movements are a long, slow dance. The points on the horizon where it rises and sets shift gradually over a cycle of 18.6 years. To track this required a dedication spanning generations, a patient passing down of celestial knowledge. At sites like Stonehenge, we see evidence of this deep lunar understanding. Specific stones and the ancient avenues leading to the monument are not aimed at the sun, but at the moon's extreme northern and southern rising points. These rare events, known as the major and minor lunar standstills, mark the outer limits of the moon's journey. To build for an event that only happens fully once every 18 years speaks to an incredible long-term vision. For many cultures, the moon was intimately linked to the rhythms of life, governing concepts of fertility and the passage of time, often personified as a powerful deity. Aligning a temple or a standing stone to its most extreme position was therefore a sacred duty, a way to honor and harness its cyclical power. This intricate lunar knowledge proves that ancient sky watchers were not merely following the sun. They were true masters of the celestial sphere, mapping its most subtle and long-term patterns with astonishing accuracy. Yet beyond the steady cycles of the sun and moon lay the silent, fixed patterns of the stars. On a perfectly clear night, far from the glow of modern cities, the sky reveals a tapestry of brilliant, unmoving lights. For ancient builders, these were not random specks. They were a grand, starry map, a collection of celestial guides that never wavered. The most trusted of these were the circumpolar stars, the ones that endlessly circled the pole and never dipped below the horizon. To the ancient Egyptians, this constant, unending motion was the ultimate symbol of eternity. They aligned the massive pyramids with an accuracy that still amazes us today, carefully sighting them toward Theban, the pole star of their era. This was not just an engineering feat, it was a spiritual one, physically connecting the pharaoh's eternal resting place to the undying stars. Meanwhile, across the world in Mesoamerica, a different cluster held immense power. The Pleiades, a tight, shimmering group of stars, was a crucial signal in the sky. Its annual reappearance and position were used to fine-tune complex calendars and to signal the precise time to begin the agricultural cycle. When this star group appeared at a certain point in the sky, it was time to prepare the earth for planting. This practice of mirroring the sky on the ground created what scholars call a cosmogram. A city or a ceremonial center could be laid out to replicate a specific constellation, turning the entire landscape into a sacred reflection of the heavens. This was the ultimate act of harmony, building a world below that was a perfect echo of the world above. The earth itself became a mirror for the sky, a concept so powerful it appears again and again in cultures separated by vast oceans and millennia. How could this same profound idea emerge so independently across the globe, and what does it tell us about a shared human impulse to find our place in the cosmos? A forked stick and a weighted string may seem like simple playthings today, yet in the hands of an ancient Egyptian astronomer, this instrument, known as a merkit, could track the precise passage of a star across the night sky. The basic principle was one of elegant alignment. The astronomer would set up two of these devices, sighting along the line between them to define a true north-south meridian. By observing when a specific star crossed this invisible line, they could mark the exact hour of the night or determine the true cardinal directions with astonishing reliability. This was the foundational act, the careful drawing of a celestial line on the earth that could then guide the construction of everything from a pharaoh's pyramid to the layout of an entire city. It was a tool of pure observation, demanding immense patience and a deep, intimate knowledge of the stars. But how did they translate that single, perfect line into the grand, sprawling plans for a metropolis? For that, they turned to the tools of the earthbound surveyor. The Roman groma, for instance, was a simple but brilliant device for marking straight lines and perfect right angles on the ground. It consisted of a cross-shaped frame with plumb bobs hanging from each arm. By sighting across the hanging lines, a surveyor could extend a straight line for miles, ensuring that a road or an aqueduct stayed perfectly on course. This was the practical application of celestial knowledge, the method for transferring the grand design from the sky down to the soil. Meanwhile, the steady, constant drip of a water clock measured the passage of time through the long, star-filled nights, allowing observers to log the movements of celestial bodies with a consistency we might not expect from such an ancient technology. And during the day, a simple shadow stick planted in the ground became a sophisticated solar observatory. By tracking the arc of its shadow throughout the day and from season to season, these early scientists could map the sun's changing path, pinpointing the solstices and equinoxes that were so critical to their calendars and ceremonies. The true genius was not in any one tool, but in the system. They combined the star-tracking Merkit, the land-measuring groma, the time-keeping water clock, and the sun-watching shadow stick into a single, integrated toolkit. This synergy of simple technologies, wielded with consummate skill and generations of accumulated knowledge, is what allowed them to scale up from aligning a single temple doorway to orienting entire cities with the cosmos. The monuments that stand today are a testament not to magical powers, but to a refined and utterly practical science. The precision of their tools becomes breathtakingly clear in the city of Teotihuacan. As you walk the vast avenue of the dead, you are not just moving through ruins, you are traversing a scale model of the solar system itself. The ancient builders laid out this metropolis as a physical representation of the cosmos, a sacred diagram in stone. The Pyramid of the Sun, its massive bulk dominating the landscape, is not aligned to true north. Instead, its western face points directly toward the setting sun on two key days, May 19th and July 25th. These dates divided the solar year into periods that perfectly matched the agricultural cycle of the region, from the zenith rains to the harvest. This was a colossal working calendar. Further north, the Pyramid of the Moon creates a powerful visual alignment with the sacred mountain Cerro Gordo, its silhouette echoing the mountain's natural shape, blending the man-made and the divine into a single harmonious line. But the grandest clue is the city's entire grid, which is rotated 15.5 degrees east of north. Why such a specific, deliberate offset? Researchers suggest this orientation was carefully chosen so that the Pleiades star cluster would rise directly over the Pyramid of the Sun on the day it reached its zenith, a moment of profound ceremonial significance. This was far more than an urban center. Its very name, given by the later Aztecs, means the place where men became gods. It was a cosmogram, a microcosm of the universe designed to channel celestial power directly into the earthly realm. Every street, every pyramid was a conscious act of mirroring the heavens, a theme that resonates across continents and cultures, begging the question of why this same impulse to build cosmic reflections appeared so universally. This celestial knowledge was far too precious to be left to chance. It was guarded, curated, and perfected by a select class of individuals who stood at the very intersection of science, religion, and power. These were the priest astronomers, the true masterminds behind the cosmic blueprints. In an age before printed books or public education, these learned figures were the living libraries of their civilization. Their ability to read the sky was not a hobby, it was the source of their immense authority. By predicting the coming of the rains, the ideal time for planting, or the terrifying spectacle of an eclipse, they could assure the people that the cosmos was in order and that they were the ones interpreting its will. In the great cities of Mesopotamia, Babylonian scribes meticulously recorded the movements of planets and stars on clay tablets, seeing in them divine messages that foretold the fate of kings and empires. A lunar eclipse might be interpreted as a warning to the ruler, while the appearance of a comet could signal impending change. In ancient China, the imperial astronomers held a position of supreme trust, advising the emperor directly. The legitimacy of his rule, the mandate of heaven, was believed to be reflected in the heavens. It was the astronomer's sacred duty to watch for any celestial irregularity that might suggest that mandate was being withdrawn. This knowledge was not for everyone. It was esoteric, passed down through years of rigorous, often secretive training from master to apprentice. This secrecy was a tool of control, ensuring that the power to communicate with the gods and predict the future remained in the hands of a privileged few. When a new city was to be founded, it was these individuals who oversaw the ceremony. They would use their instruments to draw the first sacred lines, aligning the main avenues and temples with the stars or the solstice sun. They were not merely architects, they were orchestrators of cosmic harmony, ensuring that the community's entire physical world was a respectful echo of the divine order. Their profound legacy is not written on parchment, but etched permanently into the stone foundations of ancient cities and the precise orientations of temples that have stood for millennia. The great stones of Stonehenge stand silent on the Salisbury Plain, a riddle carved from earth and rock. At dawn on the summer solstice, the sun's first light breaks the horizon, perfectly framed by the arch of the tallest trilithons and aligned with the outlying heel stone. This moment of celestial theater was no accident. It was the pinnacle of a sophisticated astronomical system, but the famous stone circle is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The entire landscape was a sacred stage, carefully choreographed to the movements of the sun and moon. Just a short distance away, the massive settlement of Durrington Walls reveals a complementary alignment. Its timber circles and avenues were oriented not to the summer sunrise, but to the winter solstice sunset. This suggests a powerful, dualistic ritual calendar. The summer solstice at Stonehenge may have marked a time of communal gathering and celebration, while the winter solstice at Durrington Walls could have signaled a period of introspection, perhaps even honoring those who had passed on. The connection deepens with the discovery of the nearby Durrington Avenue, which was aligned to the rising of the southern moon during its major standstill, an event that occurs only once every 18.6 years. This reveals a society that planned for generations, building monuments that would serve their descendants for centuries. Stonehenge was not an isolated temple. It was the vibrant, beating heart of a vast ceremonial complex where the rhythms of the sky directly dictated the rhythms of life, death, and renewal for its Neolithic builders. This complex relationship between architecture and astronomy is a thread that runs across the globe, connecting cultures that never met, all seemingly driven by the same profound need to mirror the heavens here on Earth. The silent, invisible language of the stars required a translator, a system to turn celestial angles into earthly foundations. This was the domain of sacred geometry, where simple mathematical ratios became the secret code for cosmic alignment. The builders understood that the relationships between numbers and shapes held a profound power, mirroring the perfect order they observed in the heavens. Long before the theorem was given a famous name, the principle of the 3-4-5 triangle was a practical tool. In ancient Egypt, the harpodonapti, or rope stretchers, would take a cord knotted into 12 equal segments. By stretching it to form a triangle with sides of 3, 4, and 5 units, they could generate a perfect right angle. This was the essential first step, the act of creating a true square or rectangle on the ground from which an entire temple's orientation could be established. But their mathematical ambition reached even further. The proportions of the Great Pyramid of Giza are a mathematical marvel. The ratio of its perimeter to its height is remarkably close to 2 times pi, the constant that defines the circle. Meanwhile, the dimensions of its inner chambers and outer forms seem to incorporate the golden ratio, a proportion celebrated for its aesthetic harmony and its frequent appearance in nature. This was not a coincidence. It suggests the pyramid was designed as a physical repository of cosmic knowledge, its very shape encoding the mathematical principles that govern the universe. For these cultures, numbers were not abstract. They were the building blocks of creation, a divine language that connected the earthly to the celestial. Every right angle laid out with a knotted rope, every pyramid side calculated with stunning precision, was an act of weaving this sacred order into the fabric of their world. The grand avenues and towering monuments we see today are the visible result, but their true foundation was this silent mathematical framework, an unwavering belief that to build with these proportions was to make the earth itself resonate in harmony with the cosmos. Gaze upon the Great Pyramid, its sides aligned to the 4 cardinal directions with an error of less than 1/15 of a degree. This is a level of precision that would challenge modern engineers even with advanced tools. Originally, its surface was sheathed in polished white limestone, gleaming so brightly in the sun that it would have been visible for miles, a true celestial beacon on the earth. But this external perfection was only the beginning. Inside the pyramid, narrow shafts were cut through the massive stone blocks, not for ventilation, but as precise celestial sightlines. One set points directly toward the northern circumpolar stars, the so-called imperishable ones that never set, symbolizing eternal life. Another set aims for the star Sirius, which the Egyptians associated with Isis, the goddess of rebirth. These were not merely architectural features, they were spiritual conduits designed to guide the soul of the pharaoh directly to his place among the undying stars. The entire complex reveals a deeper layer of cosmic mirroring. The 3 main pyramids at Giza are arranged in a pattern that many researchers believe mirrors the 3 stars of Orion's belt. This was not a random placement. In Egyptian mythology, Orion was linked to Osiris, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. By recreating this sacred constellation in stone on the ground, the plateau became more than a cemetery. It was a machine for resurrection, a powerful landscape designed to harness the cyclical power of the stars to guarantee the king's rebirth. Every perfectly aligned side, every star-pointing shaft, and the very layout of the plateau worked in concert to transform a tomb into a vehicle for eternal life, standing as the ultimate testament to a civilization that seamlessly wove astronomy into their most profound beliefs about death and what lies beyond. A towering ziggurat in Mesopotamia did not scrape the sky by accident. It was a deliberate attempt to build a ladder to the gods, a physical axis around which the entire world was believed to spin. This universal idea, found across countless cultures, is known as the axis mundi, the world's spiritual center. It was the central pole of the cosmos, imagined as a great tree, a sacred mountain, or a monumental pillar that connected the ordinary world to the heavens above and the realms below. For a community, the most profound act they could perform was to locate their city at the very foot of this cosmic axis. In Mesopotamia, the massive, stepped ziggurat was not just a temple, it was explicitly called the bridge between heaven and earth. Priests would ascend its levels to perform rituals, drawing the power of the gods down to the people. In Jerusalem, the Temple Mount was considered the navel of the world. the very first land to emerge from the waters of creation and the point where heaven and earth met. This was not merely symbolic geography, it was a spiritual reality that dictated how a city was built. By aligning the central point of this sacred space, the Holy of Holies, with a fixed celestial point like the unmoving pole star, builders did something extraordinary. They anchored the entire city to the axis of the universe. This transformed a simple urban center into the cosmological center of everything, a point of perfect stability and divine connection in a world that could often feel unpredictable. The city became a conduit, a place where the divine will could flow into the human realm and where human prayers could ascend. This spiritual geography, this deep need to be at the center of everything, was as crucial to their identity as the rivers that watered their fields or the stones that built their walls. It answers a fundamental question of why this practice of celestial alignment was so universal. It was not just about marking time or direction. It was about fulfilling a profound human yearning to find our place in the cosmos, to build a home at the very heart of creation. Across the world in Cambodia, the sprawling stone complex of Angkor Wat presents a vision of the universe carved from sandstone. As the largest religious monument ever built, it is more than a temple. It is a breathtakingly precise model of the Hindu cosmos. Its entire design was a deliberate act of world-building, intended to bring the divine order down to earth. The first clue to its purpose is its unusual orientation towards the west, a direction typically associated with the setting sun and the realm of ancestors. This was not an error but a specific choice. On the morning of the spring equinox, the sun performs a perfect celestial ceremony, rising directly over the temple's central lotus bud tower. This alignment transforms the entire structure into a colossal solar marker, bathing the sacred center in light at the moment of celestial balance. The grand layout of the complex is a direct architectural map of Hindu mythology. The central towers represent the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the mythical axis of the world and the home of the gods. The enclosing walls symbolize the mountain ranges that ring Meru, while the vast moat surrounding the temple depicts the cosmic oceans. Every bridge and courtyard corresponds to a continent in this spiritual geography. Even the intricate bas-reliefs that line the walls are arranged to mirror the passage of time as understood through the Hindu calendar, with specific panels aligned to astronomical events. This was a city temple designed to be a living cosmogram. By walking its galleries, the Khmer king and his people were not merely visiting a place of worship, they were traversing the universe itself. The precise alignment of its stones with the stars and seasons was believed to generate harmony and prosperity for the entire empire, a physical prayer for balance between the earthly kingdom and the eternal cosmic law. This celestial clockwork operated on a timescale almost beyond human comprehension. The slow wobble of our planet's axis, a cycle known as the precession of the equinoxes, completes one full turn every 26,000 years. Imagine a spinning top as it begins to slow, its axis tracing a slow, lazy circle in the air. Earth does the very same thing, its poles gradually shifting their point in the sky over this vast period. This imperceptible drift meant the entire celestial landscape was in motion over the centuries. The star we know as Polaris currently marks our North Pole, but it is a temporary guide. When the Egyptians built the pyramids, the pole star was Thuban in the constellation of Draco. In 12,000 years, it will be the brilliant Vega. This was a puzzle that could only be solved by a civilization thinking in terms of generations, not individual lifetimes. How could they possibly track such a slow-moving clock? Some researchers point to ancient myths that speak of world ages lasting thousands of years, suggesting these stories were a way of encoding this celestial knowledge. Architectural changes at sacred sites might also reflect this understanding. A temple rebuilt after centuries might show a slight shift in its alignment, perhaps to correct for the drifting sky or to honor a new celestial marker. This long-term perspective is what truly separates their worldview from our own. They were not building just for themselves or even for their grandchildren. They were constructing monuments and aligning cities for cosmic eras they would never see, anchoring their legacy to the grand, slow turning of the universe itself. High in the thin air of the Andes, the stone city of Machu Picchu clings to a mountain ridge, a place where architecture and astronomy become one with the living rock. Here, the Incas engineered a sacred observatory perfectly calibrated to the sun's journey. At its heart stands the Intihuatana, an exquisitely carved granite pillar whose name means the hitching post of the sun. This was no mere sculpture. On the June solstice, the southern hemisphere's shortest day, Inca priests would gather as the sun stood directly overhead, casting no shadow from the stone. In that moment of perfect vertical alignment, they performed ceremonies to literally tether the sun, preventing it from continuing its journey north and vanishing forever. They believed their rituals, anchored by this stone, were essential to coaxing the sun back, ensuring the return of light, warmth, and life to the world. This was a matter of cosmic survival. Precise trapezoidal windows in the Temple of the Sun were cut to frame the rising sun on the solstice, while other structures align with the first gleam of the Pleiades, a star cluster they revered as the celestial patrons of agriculture. The entire city's layout pays homage to the sacred geography, with the looming peak of Huayna Picchu serving as a permanent, natural gnomon in their vast mountain sundial. For the Inca, the emperor was the son of the sun god Inti, a living bridge between the people and the divine. By building a city that so perfectly mirrored the celestial order, they were not just worshipping their god, they were actively participating in the maintenance of the cosmos itself, a daily practice of aligning their world with the heavens to guarantee its continued existence. This great mystery lies at the heart of our story, a puzzle that has divided scholars for generations. Did a single, lost civilization spread the secrets of the stars across the ancient world, or did humanity, in its scattered cradles, simply look up and see the same truth? The evidence presents a tantalizing duality. On one hand, the similarities are too striking to ignore. The principle of aligning a temple to the solstice sun appears in the deserts of Egypt, the jungles of Cambodia, and the highlands of Peru. It is as if every culture received the same fundamental blueprint. This has led some to propose a forgotten age of seafaring explorers, a master race of astronomer priests who traveled the globe, planting the seeds of celestial knowledge wherever they landed. Yet, for all its romantic appeal, this theory of diffusion struggles against the immense barriers of time and terrain. The builders of Stonehenge raised their stones over 4,000 years before the Khmer Empire carved Angkor Wat from the jungle. The vast, trackless oceans and unforgiving deserts that separated these cultures were formidable walls. This brings us to the compelling case for independent discovery. Perhaps the answer is not in lost continents or phantom ships, but in the very wiring of the human brain. Every human, regardless of their origin, witnessed the same cosmic dance. They all saw the sun retreat in winter and return in summer, a cycle of death and rebirth that demanded explanation. They all saw the moon wax and wane, a reliable counter for the passage of time. Faced with these overwhelming, universal patterns, is it any wonder that isolated cultures developed similar responses? They used the most reliable, unchanging reference points they had, the sun, the moon, and the stars, to bring order to their world. Building a pyramid that pointed to the pole star or a temple that captured the equinox light was the most logical, the most human, solution to the profound need for meaning and stability. This points not to a single teacher, but to a shared celestial heritage, a deep, instinctual drive to find our place in the grand cosmos, a story written not in one language but in the universal tongue of the night sky. The stones themselves tell a story far grander than mere engineering. When a ruler ordered a city aligned to the stars, they were making a claim that echoed through every level of society. This was the ultimate demonstration of authority, a declaration that their power extended beyond the human realm and into the cosmic. They were not just commanding laborers to move mountains of stone, they were commanding the very order of the universe to manifest on Earth. The perfectly straight avenue pointing to the solstice sunrise was proof that the king possessed a unique connection to the gods, a sacred mandate to rule. In the eyes of the people, this was not symbolic, it was a tangible reality. A successful harvest following the celestial calendar, or a predicted eclipse, reinforced this belief, turning the ruler into an indispensable mediator between the community and the forces that controlled their survival. The city's layout became a permanent, unarguable sermon in stone. Every citizen walking a street that mirrored a celestial path or living in the shadow of a pyramid aimed at the pole star was constantly reminded of their place within a divinely sanctioned hierarchy. The priest and the king stood at the apex, the sole interpreters of the cosmic blueprint, while the alignment of the city itself visually cemented this social structure. It transformed the urban center from a simple collection of buildings into a sacred diagram of power, a physical manifestation of a culture's most deeply held beliefs about order, destiny, and their relationship with the divine. This symbolic weight, this need to manifest cosmic law in brick and mortar, was the true driving force that compelled civilizations to pour their collective wealth and energy into these breathtaking projects for generations. While the pyramids reached for the stars, another civilization was mastering the earth with a different kind of celestial order. In the Indus Valley, the great city of Mohenjo-Daro presents a vision of stunning urban clarity. Its streets run in a perfect north-south and east-west grid, a layout so logical it feels almost modern. This was not the work of priests aligning temples to a god, but of pragmatic planners using the sun as a tool for daily life. By orienting the entire city to the cardinal directions, they harnessed the sun's predictable path. The main avenues caught the morning and afternoon light, warming homes and streets, while the alignment helped channel the seasonal winds for natural cooling. This was celestial alignment in the service of pure function, creating a living environment that was orderly, healthy, and sustainable for tens of thousands of people. At the city's heart lay the Great Bath, a watertight, meticulously constructed pool that may have been the center of community life. While its exact purpose remains a mystery, its presence hints at a ritual significance, perhaps linked to the cleansing power of water and its own cycles that mirrored those in the heavens. Mohenjo-Daro stands as a powerful testament to a different philosophy. Here, the cosmos was not just a gateway to the gods, but a practical blueprint for building a society that worked in seamless harmony with the natural world. Yet this grand celestial narrative holds a hidden layer of modern controversy. When we gaze upon an ancient site, our minds are pattern-seeking engines, and with hundreds of stars and potential sightlines, it is incredibly easy to find alignments that look intentional but are simply products of random chance. This is the trap of confirmation bias, where a researcher might see only the evidence that supports their theory while overlooking the data that does not fit. Early studies in this field were sometimes guilty of this, projecting modern Western astronomical concepts onto cultures that saw the sky in an entirely different way. They might have identified a solstice alignment, for instance, while missing a more subtle but culturally significant lunar event. The modern science of archaeoastronomy has had to grow more rigorous, employing sophisticated statistical analysis to answer a critical question: what is the probability that this alignment occurred by accident? If dozens of key structures across a culture all share the same orientation, the odds of that being random plummet. This mathematical scrutiny helps separate genuine celestial blueprints from mere architectural coincidence. A second, equally important challenge is the balance of interpretation. We must be careful not to underestimate the sophisticated knowledge of ancient builders, dismissing their accomplishments as primitive luck. Yet we must also guard against the opposite extreme, embellishing their achievements with fantastical theories of lost technologies or alien intervention, which often strips these cultures of their own genuine ingenuity. The most reliable path forward is a careful, multidisciplinary conversation. By weaving together the hard evidence from archaeology, the precise calculations of astronomy, and the cultural context from ethnography and surviving oral traditions, we can begin to hear the true story these stones are telling. It is this critical, humble perspective that allows us to slowly separate the profound celestial facts etched into the landscape from the seductive fictions of our own imagination. The principles of celestial alignment did not vanish with the ancient world, they simply evolved. Look at the grand avenues of Washington, D.C., a city meticulously planned by Pierre L'Enfant in the late 1700s. His design was not arbitrary. Key sightlines, like the axis between the Capitol building and the Lincoln Memorial, are oriented so that the sun rises directly over the Capitol on the morning of the summer solstice, bathing the National Mall in a symbolic, unifying light. This was a deliberate echo of the old ways, using the sun's path to imbue a modern seat of power with a sense of cosmic order and enduring purpose. Across the globe in Jaipur, India, the entire Pink City was constructed in the early 18th century according to the ancient tenets of Vastu Shastra. This is a traditional science of architecture that dictates how buildings and cities should be aligned with the cardinal directions and cosmic energies to promote harmony, health, and prosperity for their inhabitants. The city's 9 rectangular sectors and the precise placement of its palace and observatory were all calculated to align the human world with the divine. This wisdom is not confined to history books or ceremonial layouts. A modern architect today designing a sustainable home will carefully calculate the solar path to maximize natural light and heat in the winter while providing shade in the summer. This passive solar design is a direct, practical application of the same knowledge that guided the builders of Teotihuacan and Machu Picchu. Only now the goal is energy efficiency rather than divine favor. The sacred imperative may have faded, but the underlying human drive remains profoundly the same, a deep-seated desire to build our lives in harmony with the greater forces of our environment and the cosmos itself. The legacy of those ancient sky watchers is written in the very streets we walk and the buildings we live in, a silent testament to a timeless quest for balance. Before a single stone was ever set, the blueprint existed in story. Long before the invention of writing, the most vital knowledge of a people was carried on the breath of their elders, woven into the very fabric of their mythology. These were not idle tales told for amusement. They were sophisticated memory systems designed to preserve complex celestial information across countless generations. Consider the Pleiades, that shimmering cluster of stars. Its story appears with stunning similarity among the Greeks, the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, and numerous Native American nations. In each version, it is often a tale of 7 sisters pursued across the sky, their appearance and disappearance intrinsically linked to the turning of the seasons and the timing of planting or harvest. A myth about a hunter eternally chasing these sisters was not just a fable. It was a celestial almanac, a way to remember the precise time of year when this star cluster would rise just before the sun, signaling a critical shift in the agricultural cycle. These narratives were the original instruction manuals. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the world's oldest written stories, contains detailed descriptions of the hero's journey that correspond to the path of the sun through the constellations. The Hindu Vedas, ancient sacred texts, are filled with astronomical references that dictated the timing of rituals and even the orientation of sacrificial altars, which in turn influenced the layout of early temples and cities. To understand why a temple corridor points to a specific star on a specific night, we must first learn to read the stories that culture told about that star. The night sky was humanity's first storybook, and every constellation was a chapter in a grand, living narrative. The myths were the key that unlocked the celestial code, transforming random points of light into a guided map for living in harmony with the universe. The Nazca Desert holds a secret that can only be seen from the heavens. Etched into the dry, stony ground of southern Peru, these vast geoglyphs form a gallery of colossal spiders, hummingbirds, and geometric shapes so immense they defy comprehension from the ground. This was not an urban plan, but a sprawling ceremonial canvas, a form of alignment that used the Earth itself as its medium, while the full purpose of the lines remains one of archaeology's great puzzles. A compelling thread connects them to the sky. Certain long, arrow-straight lines point directly to the spot on the horizon where the sun rises on the June solstice, the shortest day in the southern hemisphere. Other lines may have been sighted on the first appearance of the Pleiades star cluster, a celestial event that signaled the coming of vital rains and the time to plant. For the Nazca people living in one of the driest places on Earth, this connection was a matter of survival. Their rituals, walked along these sacred pathways, were a desperate and hopeful dialogue with the gods of the sky, a way to plead for the water that would sustain their world. By marking the Earth with these cosmic symbols, they were not building monuments to look at, but creating a participatory landscape where every step was a prayer, aligning their entire community with the forces that governed life and death from above. This transforms the desert from an empty expanse into a sacred text, written not in words but in lines that only the gods and now our aircraft could fully read. The jungle canopy created a world of shifting shadows where the sun's daily path could vanish for days at a time. Here, in the dense rainforests of Mesoamerica, ancient builders developed a unique celestial solution. They focused not on the rising or setting sun, but on the moment it passed directly overhead, a day of no shadows at all known as the zenith passage. This event was their true north, a reliable anchor in a sky often hidden by clouds. It split the year with perfect symmetry, signaling the imminent arrival of the life-giving rains. A city aligned to this zenith sun was a city synchronized with its very survival. Meanwhile, under the vast, clear skies of the Egyptian desert, the stars burned with a brilliant, unwavering intensity. The dry air offered a perfect window to the cosmos, night after night, allowing for observations of stunning precision. This environmental gift enabled the legendary accuracy of their pyramid alignments, turning the desert into a perfect observatory. Far to the north, in the lands that would host Stonehenge, the climate presented a different challenge. The dramatic shift between long, bright summer days and deep, dark winter nights made the sun's turning points a matter of life and death. Marking the solstices was not just ceremonial, it was essential for knowing when to store food, when the deepest cold would arrive, and when the light would finally begin its hopeful return. This reveals a profound truth: the sky was a universal clock, but every culture set that clock differently based on the land they called home. The choice to track the sun, the moon, or a specific star cluster was not random. It was a brilliant, practical adaptation. They looked upward and asked the same fundamental questions, but the answers they found and the celestial partners they chose were beautifully shaped by the world at their feet. A high-tech drone hovers over a dense jungle, its laser scanner piercing the leafy canopy to map the ground below in 3 dimensions. This is LiDAR technology, and it is revolutionizing our understanding of ancient city planning. Where explorers once hacked through vines for years, we can now uncover entire street grids hidden for centuries with a single flight. This is just one tool in a new scientific arsenal that is finally allowing us to measure the ancients' work with the precision it deserves. Using satellite-based GPS, we can confirm the alignment of a processional avenue down to a fraction of an inch. With a theodolite, a modern surveyor's instrument, we can trace the sightlines from a temple doorway to a distant horizon point, verifying the exact position of a solstice sunrise. We are not just guessing anymore, we are proving. Computer software can turn back the cosmic clock, recreating the night sky as it appeared over Teotihuacan 2,000 years ago. With a few clicks, we can watch as the Pleiades star cluster rises directly over the pyramid of the Sun on the very date ancient builders intended. This digital validation is profound. It confirms that what might have looked like a rough stone circle or a slightly off-center pyramid was in fact a masterpiece of intentional engineering. This technology does not strip away the mystery or the grandeur of their achievements. On the contrary, it elevates them. It proves that their celestial blueprints were not the stuff of myth or lucky accident, but the result of generations of meticulous, patient observation. We are no longer just admiring the monuments. We are finally able to read the precise language in which they were written, a language of mathematics, astronomy, and a deep, enduring connection to the cosmos. These celestial blueprints were more than architectural plans. They were a profound statement of philosophy. For the ancients, the question of our place in the cosmos was answered through stone and alignment. They saw themselves not as separate from the universe, but as an essential thread woven directly into its living fabric. To build a city that mirrored the stars was to actively participate in the cosmic order, to harmonize human destiny with the grand, turning wheel of the heavens. This was a relationship of deep reciprocity. In our modern world, we often position ourselves as observers, analyzing nature from a detached, clinical distance. We see ourselves as masters of our environment, standing apart from the systems that sustain us. The silent, patient work of the ancient builders offers a powerful corrective to this worldview. Their legacy is a reminder that we are not outside the cosmos looking in. We are, and always have been, participants within it. Every solstice sunrise that still illuminates an ancient temple corridor is an invitation to reconsider our relationship with the universe. It challenges us to shift from a mindset of dominance to one of partnership, to see ourselves not as controllers of nature, but as collaborators in a timeless, cosmic dance. This philosophical shift, this reawakening to our role as conscious participants in a vast, interconnected whole, may be the most enduring gift they have left us. From the pyramids of Giza to the temples of Angkor, we have walked through a world where stone and sky were one. These master builders did not just construct buildings, they wove entire cities into the fabric of the cosmos, aligning them with the sun, the moon, and the stars. This was a practice born of profound necessity, serving the practical need for calendars and direction, the spiritual yearning for divine connection, and the political imperative to cement a ruler's power. Their legacy is a breathtaking testament to human ingenuity and a patience that spanned generations. It speaks to an eternal desire to find our place in the grand scheme of things. The astronomer Carl Sagan once reflected that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. In these ancient streets and towering monuments, we see that process begin. The next time you find yourself beneath a blanket of stars, remember that you are gazing at the same celestial library that guided civilizations for millennia. You are part of that same unbroken story. If this journey through the stars has sparked your curiosity, we would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And for more voyages into history's greatest enigmas, be sure to subscribe.